Chris, I'm absolutely loving that little jingle. What a way to start.
It was a bit festive as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. First time we've ever had that. So welcome, guys, to another episode, the latest HeritageCast of the Red Robin podcast. And we're delighted to be joined by 5-season player for Hull Kingston Rovers, Adam Quinlan. How are you doing, mate? It's great to speak to you.
I'm doing well, lads. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great. We spoke to a former teammate of yours last week, George Lawler. Chris, it's nice to speak to these players who have just obviously left the club, because we've obviously, if you've ever seen it, Adam, we've dealt with players who have played about 10 years ago, and 5-6 years ago. So for you guys, it's nice, and we're going to speak about obviously the 2021 season. But I'm really enjoying doing it with George and now Quino, Chris. It's going to be a really good episode.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be watching this and listening to this on the podcast. Will be really interesting to hear what Adam says, because it's relatable, isn't it? Obviously Adam's recently just announced his retirement, but he's only just finished playing last season. So a lot of the stuff that we talk about is really relevant for a lot of people now. Yeah,
definitely. So as always, mate, let's take it back to where it all began for you in Culborough in New South Wales. Obviously, we always speak, when we speak to the Aussies that come on the podcast, amateur rugby league and the league system and stuff isn't the best, and we obviously know that. For you guys, especially you growing up in Sydney, where there must be 10 clubs in a radius of about a few miles, whereas in here we only have about 5-6 in the city. What was it like? Was you always going to be a rugby player? Is that all you wanted to do? Just tell us how you grew up, how you got involved in the game of rugby league, and where your love for the sport first started.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad, obviously he used to coach young sides. My brother, I've got an older brother, he coached that, so I sort of just got into rugby through that. Started from a young age, I think 6 or 7. Played for Culborough, like you said, and I didn't know that was always what I was going to do. I used to love my cricket as well, so growing up in the summer we'd play cricket here, and then the winter I'd play rugby. And then just growing up, I never really made any rep teams or anything, so I never really thought that it was going to eventuate to what it did. But I just loved it, and just playing with your mates on the weekend or at school. I guess like rugby here is like footy is to you guys. So always at lunchtime you'd kick the ball around, have a game of touch even, and just loved it from a little kid, and grew up and was lucky enough to progress on with it.
What was your first position, Adam? Have you always been full back, or was you trying a few different positions, especially in them early days?
Yeah, I've mainly played either a halfback growing up till probably when I was about 19. I think I played my first game of at fullback, and then I think that season I might have played a little bit of both, and then from then on I played fullback and mainly then for the rest of my time. Oh, actually a little bit at St George at 6, but halfback originally, growing up.
You mentioned you love a cricket, obviously a massive cricket event going on at the minute, the Ashes. Pretty shaky start from us Pommies, as you call us, but have you been watching any of it?
Yeah, definitely. I've been following it. Couldn't have had a better start for us, first ball. But you're fighting back a little bit today, actually. It's just finished up for today. But I love my cricket. I always watched it, especially the Test and the Ashes. It's which was unfortunate. I wanted to go to a Test like the Ashes in my time there, but I think twice it was held there, and I could never get a ticket either time.
Yeah, I managed to get to the one Ben Stokes.
Oh, yeah, I tried to get that one. Yeah,
unbelievable. Is it like like a lot of things in sport? If you wrote down what happened, people won't believe you, would they? And that's the beauty of sport. It's just so unpredictable.
Yeah, that was a great moment in sport, even from an Australian perspective. That was unbelievable, that game.
So you mentioned obviously playing amateur rugby, so many clubs around the Sydney area. When did St George first come to you? Obviously that was your local professional team from where you grew up. When did the call come? What was the decision that you made? Did you get a long-term contract? Was it just going to be in the Youth Cup for a start, or did you see yourself for the long term at St George when you got signed? How old was you at the time as well, Quinny?
Yeah, so I played for Culborough until under 18s, and then because obviously Culborough is only a little town, so that stops there. And then so I had to play like men's after that. So I played for a different team. They were called Jambroo, which a town was not too far away. played there a season like in the open division, and then got asked to trial for the following year for the under-20s for the St George, for the Dragons, and so trialed there, and then managed to get selected from that to be in the under-20s squad for the year after. I was hesitant at first because people I spoke to, like the squads were usually picked even before the trial, so I thought, well, I think there was 2 of us maybe from the trials that got selected because the rest of the squad was already picked. And I thought, well, there's no real point if I'm going to do it and then not play or just not even looked at. But then I was glad, fortunately, I did. I went and played for the under-20, trained for them. And I was working at the time with my old man doing plumbing. And then I travelled to go to training, I think it was 3 or 4 times a week after that. And then I was on the outer, like on the edge, didn't really play. And I think it was around 14. I got, the coach said, yeah, I'm going to put you in just off the bench, come on and play a bit of dummy half hooker, which I'd never played. But, I was happy he was getting me in the team somewhere. And then I think that game, the fullback got injured and he needed an operation on his foot. So he was out for the rest of the season. And I managed to play the last 13 games and, managed to go all right, and then from that I got offered a 2-year contract for St George, and like full time for after that. So then signed with that, and that's how it started. Yeah.
So Adam, just tell us what was the, especially in them early days when you're coming through the ranks and before signing for St George, what was the physicality like when you was playing rugby? Was it tough or was it more skill based? Because obviously the weather's a lot different over there.
Yeah, it was pretty skill-based, I'd say. And then, well, because obviously I'm little now, I was even skinnier back then, so it was all kind of physical for me, so I tried to stay out of that a bit. But then I think when I said I left Colborough and went to play for an open age when I was 19, I played in the men's comp, and I think that really helped me because you're playing against men, and that was quite physical, especially for me. Whereas a lot of guys in the 20s already, that it was good skill and that, but you're playing against guys your own age. So I think that developed me quite well for what was to come, and pretty happy it went that way in the end. Yeah.
I was going to say, Joe, a bit of a similar story to some of the lads who are obviously going out on dual reg and stuff like that at Rovers now, and the younger lads who are, getting a footing in the game by playing, maybe a bit more tougher competition, so that when they do come into that first team, they're physically they're a lot more prepared rather than obviously when you're in training and you concentrate on your skills and all stuff like that. But you don't always get that competitive element, that aggression, what you do when you play maybe in lower league footy.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of it. I don't know about you, Quinn. I think obviously you look at a Rovers perspective now. Will Tate went, didn't he, and Tom Ware, they've gone to Rochdale as well. And I feel like as good as training with you guys in the first team was, these young lads, especially Tom, who was a forward, for him to go, and that'll be the same in the Southern Hemisphere as well, playing against men, getting that physicality, getting the big minutes in, that's much better than just sticking on the sideline, maybe picking up 3 appearances for the first team here and there. But I don't know about you, Matt. I think that system really works, and I'm hoping to see it works a lot better over here, because I know you guys, if people are playing in the NRL, then they're playing in the Super Cup, the Intra-Super Cup, or the Queensland Cup. And I feel like that is why probably the standard's so good, because each week you can drop down 2-3 divisions and the standard's still up there. Whereas over here, no disrespect to the guys in League One, but you've got a lot of uni students who are just doing it to pick up a bit more extra money. It's not as serious. Do you think that system really works?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially for the young guys coming through, if they're just play academy and then they train with us and then they don't play, if they're not getting picked, then all of a sudden they get thrown in the Super League. Well, it's a totally different ball game. So, like, to get them prepared and playing against, the other men and physicality, and the skill mightn't be as good, that the levels you go down, but the physicality to get you right. But you're training with your Super League team anyway, so your skill level is getting worked on every day, so that's good. But then to get to go back and play a few weeks or a month or however long it needs, with that physicality against the other men and stuff, I think it's something that needs to be done a lot. It's a great system, I think, and it definitely benefits anyone that does it.
Yeah, let's hope so. So we go to 2013, mate, round 9, NRL debut for St George away at the Gold Coast Titans. You lost by a point, but forget about that. What was your experiences? How did it come along? How did you break through into the first team squad? And what were your experiences of the day travelling over, the TV coverage, everything like that? It must have been such a proud moment for you, your family, but just obviously a different level to what you'd expected. It must have been a great achievement there.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I was playing in the New South Wales Cup for the start of that year, training obviously with the first team, go back playing a weekend for them. The team, I don't think we were going too well at the time, and then I think we just signed Josh Dugan, I think, on the Sunday. He was coming not for the following week, and the coach Pricey come up to me, I think it was maybe a Thursday or something, and just said, "You're going to be in this week, blah, 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 all the best." And it caught me by surprise. So then we flew up, I think possibly it was a Saturday game. We flew up on the Friday, stayed overnight in the Gold Coast at the hotel. Actually, we went up there and then we went out for tea. But before that, a few of the boys went, a few shopping centre and did that. And I just, tagged along, went with a few of us. And we end up getting caught up. We end up late for tea that night. And then I think it was a $400 fine I got before I'd even played a game. I don't think I bought anything when I was shopping. I was just sort of tagged along going with the flow, so it wasn't the greatest start. But then, went back, woke up in the morning. My mum and dad flew up, I think, that morning. I didn't actually see them before the game, but really nervous, obviously, before the game. As soon as we ran out in the field, I think the nerves settled a bit and managed to get a nice early touch, I think, which helped me. And then, like I said, the game, obviously, we didn't win. We lost by a point, but just the experience all around was, one I'll never forget. It was great. And then, obviously, in the next week, like I said, they just signed Dugan, so I was straight back out again. But it was a great experience. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, and obviously making your debut, Quinn, he was lining up against current Robin, Brad Takarangi. He was playing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there. Obviously, I didn't know about it at the time, but he was there playing for Gold Coast and probably carving us up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also he was lining up with Michael Wayman, who's someone a lot of Rovers fans remember fondly from his time at the club, and he's certainly a player, Joe, that I think we wanted to see a bit more, didn't we? In the red and white, it was a shame his career got cut short. But just give us a bit of insight into to Mick Wayman and the influence he had on the team and you at that time.
Yeah, he was great. He was obviously a great player. Really nice, genuine fellow. Would always look out for the young guys and check on how we're going and make sure we're all right. And he was just as valuable off the field as he was on the field. And it was a pleasure and a privilege to play with him. And it would have been good, if we could have played together over this side of the field, over that side of the hemisphere as well. But
yeah, he's getting some used to it. How you obviously, before we move on about rugby, how you settling in? Obviously, you moved back home. How was that all going on with COVID and stuff like that? Did you have to quarantine? And how are you and your partner settling back to life down under?
Yeah, no, fortunately, we didn't have to quarantine. In New South Wales, they just changed the laws recently. And that sort of, once they changed the laws, we're like, right, let's definitely do it. And we booked the flight. So we got back. We've been, I think, a month now we've been back and just settled back in now. Just sort of been catching up with family and friends and, just doing the rounds. And it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, good, mate. And obviously, moving back to the rugby, your debut NRL season, 10 appearances, 5 tries. Not bad statistics, mate. Do you know what happens at the end of the NRL season? Because we know over here, you get like 2-3 year deals. And I know that happens down under, but recently, like when we're doing this podcast today, we already know that Josh Hodgson, a former Robin, is going to be playing for Parramatta in 2023. So It's always about the big picture plan. I always think down under, you know who's going to be there. Obviously, you've got the new Dolphins team coming in next year. People know who they're going to be playing for next year. I just think that wouldn't really work down in England. Imagine if we knew that you was going to go play for LFC the next year. Imagine stuff like that. How do you think that works? And did you ever have that plan? Did you know what your 2-3 year plan was? Never mind what was happening the following season there.
Yeah, no, I never knew that. I'm trying to think back from when my time then, but I think that might be more of a newer thing that's come in, because I can't remember back then someone knowing, like, I guess midway through the year, signing, but like before a ball's even been kicked this season, knowing where they're going to be the year after. I'm sure that must be sort of newish, because I think it's a bit strange, but everyone's professionals, and I'm sure that they'll deal with it fine. But yeah, it is a bit different.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference, isn't it? That in rugby league, even if you've signed for another club and that's maybe the next season, it's a game where you can't go in half-hearted. You can't play it at 70%, 80%. You've got to be fully into it. So in a way, I think the most recent experience for us is obviously George Lawler, wasn't it, who announced he was departing the club quite early on in the season. But what you could see is from his performances, there was no let up in his commitment to the club, and I think that's pretty unique about rugby league players and the game in itself. That regardless of where you're going, you're invested into your teammates, you're invested into the club, and rugby league players definitely put the whole heart into playing, regardless of where they're going to be, the season after or the season after that.
Yeah, I think it's one of them as well. Like you said, Chris, you can't go into it in 50%. You see in football, when we know people are moving from team to team, they get quite agitated, don't they? And they don't give the best performances. Whereas you guys, Quinny, you'll know if you go in half-hearted, like Chris said, you're going to pick up injuries. And I always think the dedication of the players, it doesn't matter if you're going to be moving on or you're going to be staying for another decade or so, you always give 110%. But go to 2014, a really good season for you. I mean, looking at your stats, obviously we always do a bit of research on the people we're going to be getting on the podcast. You played in the Auckland Nines, you played 15 matches. Yeah. That was going to be your final season. When did you find out that maybe your time at St George was coming up? And how did that move? Obviously, at the time was to Parramatta Eels. We know you played mainly for the Magpies, their feeder team in 15. But when did you realise I'm going to have to start looking at other clubs now, even after playing, a huge chunk of the 14 NRL season?
Yeah. I felt that season was quite good. I played quite a lot. I think Dugan was injured early on, and then we had a change of coach mid-season. I think Steve Price got the sack and Paul McGregor come in. And then he still picked me. He moved Dugan to the centre, so he was obviously happy with how things were going. And then I think probably the last 2 games, my form dropped, or 3 games, and then I didn't play the last game of the season, or maybe the last 2. But I was still contracted for the next season. And then at the end of the year, when we did the review and whatnot, like one-on-ones with the coaches, McGregor said to me that, possibly we might want to use, get someone else in or whatnot. If you want, you can look elsewhere. And I was like, okay. And then come back and did most of the pre-season with them. And then towards the end, it was Parramatta had come in and said, yeah, we'll take it. It was sort of, at the time I didn't realise, but it was sort of like a swap deal with Justin Hunt, another fella. And he comes to St George, and I thought about it, and then I was like, do you know what, if he's saying that to me now, there's no point sticking it out and hoping for something good if you're getting that already. And he told me straight up, so I was like, okay, well, I'll see how it goes at Parramatta. I went there, like you said, mainly played at the at Wentworthville Magpies there, and wasn't really the best move. It didn't really work out. They still had a lot of injuries and things at fullback, and I still couldn't get a run for whatever reason. So that wasn't the best move. And then end up leaving there and going to Saints, which was a good move in the end. Yeah, loved it.
How did you find the transition moving from St George to Parramatta? I know Parramatta's in Sydney suburbs as well, so did you have to move house at all, or was it just literally just a bit of a longer drive or maybe a shorter one? How did you find the transition moving club? Obviously, being a St George boy for quite a while at the time.
Yeah, so I did have to move houses, moved up to Sydney. Obviously, back then, especially being a bit younger, always been a quiet kid growing up. So to move to a different team, I was quite settled at St George and comfortable where I was. So to a different group of guys and things like that, and obviously being quiet, it wasn't the easiest thing for me to do. But yeah, I did that, and they were all welcoming and things. But yeah, I was just obviously the quiet, didn't say a lot, and then like I said, my rugby wasn't at the best, I guess, and a couple of little injuries, but opportunities weren't there either, and so it wasn't the greatest move, but I don't regret it at all, because at the time I thought that was going to be the best thing for me. But yeah.
And when you've been obviously playing at St George and Parramatta, I mean, there's been some sort of stellar names, haven't they? What you've been lining up with, players like Benji Marshall, Gareth Widdop. How much did you manage to learn or take from them players and take on into your career? Or we see some other players who just totally focus on their game. They don't really take anything from anybody else because they're so focused on what they're doing. Did you take anything from them?
Yeah, definitely. Gaz and Benji, when they were at St George, at the time Gaz was on fire as well. So to play with them guys, and then Benji obviously done it all, and the knowledge he has was unbelievable. And he'd always take time to help and pick little things up that I could improve on, or the way I come around out the back of a decoy runner, and it was unbelievable. Yeah. So if they speak and going to help you, you'd be silly not to listen. So yeah, that was something they improved my game a hell of a lot, and playing with them was something I'll never forget, and it was unbelievable. Yeah.
You mentioned the mid-season move to St Helens, mate. We'll move on to that now. How did that come about? Obviously, you mentioned you wasn't playing much. I think St Helens were in dire need of a fullback at the time. Obviously, Paul Wellens, an icon of St Helens, had just retired in 2014. But for you, was that a big call to make? Did you see it as just, obviously, it was just a short-term deal before, and obviously you came back before you came to East Hull. But tell us how that moved. Did McManus ring you up? How did that moving from obviously Sydney to Merseyside, how did that all work out for you? And I think it was your debut against Rovers.
No, debut was against Huddersfield.
I remember you scoring against us. I remember you scoring against us.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it was a couple of games in, but yeah, the move came about. I think maybe Lomax was playing fullback. He, I think, did his knee. They spoke to my manager and said, "Do I want to come?" At the time, I'd only not been long at Parramatta, so I went to the coach and said, "Oh, look, what do you think? Am I a chance of playing? Like, if not, I'll go." And then he just said, "Oh, look, if you work on a few things, blah blah, you might get a shot." So originally, I said, "Okay, no, I don't want to go to St Helens." And then I think Shannon McDonald went, and then a few weeks later, he got injured. So they asked again. Nothing really had changed at Parramatta. So I was a bit nervous and that about going. Like I said, quiet kid moving across the other side of the world. It was a big move for me. But yeah, so eventually I said, yeah, let's do it. I moved across there, and it was different, but something I'll never forget, and very glad that I did. And to go over there, and I think got there on the Monday and or Sunday maybe, and straight into it on the Thursday game, and we went from there.
Yeah, and you was lining up with two former Robins, Mossy Massoy, Travis Burns.
Yeah, it was great. I think Mossy, I played with him there. I was with him at St George, but I think he done his knee in the pre-season, and then together again at Robins. So yeah, it was great to play with him and get to know him obviously before he come to the Robins, and and play a bit with Burnsy as well, which was good. Yeah,
what was Travis like? Because Joe, when we speak to players, and when we've done previous HeritageCasts, I think you either loved him or you hated him, sort of, because he'd rub people up the wrong way, and then if you didn't like it, that was pretty much it. What was your experience with Travis Burns?
Yeah, no, I'd heard things like that and whatnot before I got there, but you know what, I got on with him quite well, and I found him quite funny, just the way he was, and he'd yell on that at times, and that he was definitely you loved him or you hated him, but I got on with him all right, and he was all right to me. I didn't really keep in contact since I'd ever left there, but while I was there, he was fine with me.
I think he'd definitely be a good heritage guest in the future, don't you, Joe? I think we definitely need to try and get him on.
Yeah, I think he's got an Instagram account. I'm sure we can maybe give him a bell, get him on, because I'm sure he has a few words to say about how other guests that he's had on. Yeah, it'd be an interesting one. What was your first your expectations of Super League at the time, and probably what was the most challenging differences you found? Is training different, the build-up? We know the fans, we know Australia, it's the biggest sport and it gets more attendance-wise, but I think for the noise and the passion, you know, if you get 4,000 in a Yorkshire stadium on a weekend, you probably generate more atmosphere than that. How did you find the move and the transition, Quino? Because it must have been tough. I know it was just a short spell, but did it give you a taste of what was to come, do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. At the time, I didn't watch a lot of Super League because it was early in the mornings back then. I like to sleep in and things, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. But like you said, the crowd was obviously a massive difference. I didn't expect that like the singing and the noise you would get from, like I said, a smaller crowd, but in numbers. But it felt so much different. I felt at the time it was a bit more allowed to throw the ball around more from what I was used to, so that suited my game, being a support player and an attacking player. But yeah, I went in a bit just sort of not knowing what to expect. I guess it helped because with nerves and things like that, and managed to get off to a good start in the first game and that. But yeah.
Yeah, you broke up. We could hear you there, mate. We do apologise. You're has he gone, Chris?
Yeah, it's all right. We'll get him back. I'll just so yeah, we'll just fill in Joe while we get him back on. But obviously, it's great insight so far, isn't it? Listening to, and what I've been surprised is, and I've just been looking through some of the team sheets of people he's lined up against and played with, especially over the NRL, and you know, there's some stellar names, isn't there? So I think people forget about that Adam Quinlan, that he's had a great time at Rovers. Obviously, did well at St Helens, but he's played with some really big players while over in Oz as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you message him now, let's see if we can get him back on and I'll just fill the gaps. But I think, here he is now. But while we're talking about the man himself, can you hear us, Quinn? Are you back?
I don't know what happened. I just probably cut off the. I'm back. Sorry.
No, it's fine, mate. I mean, obviously, we're running it live. That's the beauty of a live podcast. We want to keep going. We don't want to show the fans what it's like. Sometimes it can go off. You're cutting off a bit, mate. I just don't want you to keep cutting out and stuff. But we'll keep going. We'll go again and we'll carry on from where we left off. So, obviously, you went back home. You signed another year with St George. You was playing for the Illawarra Cutters. And then the move to Hull Kingston Rovers came about. We'd just been relegated. We'd gone, to the Championship the first time in 10 years of being a Super League club. Obviously, a rubbish time for Hull Kingston Rovers. When Tim Sheens gave you the call, or was it Mike Smith, Neil Hudgell, what did you see Rovers as an opportunity to maybe mould as you the starting fullback? Because going, no disrespect, throughout your career, like we've always mentioned, you've struggled to cement games, you've struggled to get that starting one spot, whereas with Rovers, playing in the second tier, the aim was definitely to go back up, but we could really work around players like you. At the time, it was Jordan Abdul, Sean Lunt, the span of the club. How did the move to East Hull come about, mate?
Yeah, so Sheensy gave me a call, and he said I'm obviously over at Hull KR now. There's an opportunity over here that obviously the team just got relegated, but the plan is obviously to go straight back up, and we're going to be building and going to be like a Super League team, and I want you to come over and be the fullback for us. And obviously, having spent that time at St Helens, I always knew that I wanted to go back to England at some stage. I didn't know when it was going to be, and so that he offered the deal.
Apologies for the sound, guys. We obviously Adam's halfway around the world, so the Wi-Fi might be a bit of a problem. I know it's normally me, Joe, who has the rubbish Wi-Fi. And a little shout out to Rob Coles, who's an avid listener, big Rovers fan. He sorted me out, gave me some tips about what to do with the Wi-Fi. So if you're listening or watching, Rob, thank you for that. We're just going to try and get Adam back on. Because
I mean, I can talk for a little bit, mate. Do you want to maybe tell him to turn his Wi-Fi on and off, and we'll get him started again? But we'll carry on.
There, Joe. Did you just say you can talk for a little bit?
Yeah, well, I can try not to babble on like I normally do.
But he's on again, so we're just going to try and get him back on. But obviously, people listening to this, we've just had the George Lawler Heritage Cast, and we've got a couple more in the pipeline that we're not just going to release just yet, are we? But there are a couple of exciting players who have, like everyone who comes on the Heritage Cast have all played the part in the fabric of Hull Kingston Rovers.
Yeah, they have. I think one's probably a cult hero, local lad, and then the other's a big name Aussie. It's going to be really good to speak to them both, mate. Two very different careers at Hull Kingston Rovers as well. And obviously, once we announce who that is, guys, you'll understand what we're talking about. We've got some really exciting news coming in 2022 out. We're going to expand. We don't want to give away too much at this time, Chris, but if we're discussing coming to the back end of 2021, getting guests like Quino on, George, Mantellato, Morel, Dobson, the list goes on, Justin Morgan, Jenna Brooks. This has just been 10 months and we're really grateful, aren't we? And I think looking back at it now, it'll be nice to speak to the players who leave at the end of each season, because obviously we know when they're at the club at the time, we can't speak to them. But now that they've left and they're not contracted to the Robins, we can get that insight, and I'm really enjoying these Heritage Casts. We've had about 4 months without Wi-Fi issues, mate, haven't we? So it had to come about eventually, but I don't know about you. I love doing the weekly updates, of course I do, but I feel like these Heritage Casts give it a bit more spice, and it's nice to speak to the players.
Are we back on, Adam?
Yes, hopefully for a while.
There you are. You sound lovely now.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, perfect. Right, we've just been babbling on like we normally do, mate. So it's great to be back with you. So we'll carry on before anything else gets ruined. So you mentioning you were speaking to Tim Sheens, weren't you? How did that move to East Hull come about?
Yeah. So like I said, Sheensy called me up and said, "Would like building something here." The Robins obviously got relegated the year before. We're looking to get straight back into the Super League. We're going to be preparing and building like a Super League side, and I want you to be the number one fullback. And like I said, I'd been at St Helens, done that brief stint there, and I always said I wanted to come back to England because I really enjoyed it there, and I didn't know when it was going to be, but probably a bit sooner than I thought. But that opportunity come, and I just thought, okay, let's do it, let's go for it, and one of the best decisions I've made. So great.
And obviously the draw of coming to one of the world's best rugby league sides must have been huge for you. But how big was the draw of coming for Tim Sheens as well? A coach who's been there, done it all, had a stellar career. To have someone like that saying that they want you to be their main man at fullback and put the trust in you, that must have been an incredible draw for you to come over. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, Sheens, he coached for Australia, won premierships and things, and for him to say, come over and I want you to be the fullback, it was a huge thing for me. The time I felt was right. Actually, I think at the end of 2015, I actually met in Sydney with Mike Smith, when he was CEO at the time, about coming to the Rovers then as a halfback. I can't remember who had already signed at the time, but to partner them, and I ended up deciding not to. But when this time come around, I thought the time's right now, and it was a huge opportunity for me, and didn't ever look back in the end and loved it, like I said.
I'm trying to think if it was 2015-16, we had Bobby Blair, Campese, Matty Marsh, Kelly. We had people like that, didn't we? So probably there was a lot of halfbacks at the club at the time. Was that probably one of the decisions that swayed it, or did you just think at that time it wasn't the right decision for you? It was a bit too early, and obviously glad that you held off like you did.
Yeah, I think I just felt I was a bit younger, only a couple of years, but like to come in and be halfback and that, I thought I'm probably not ready for that to direct the team around and be that sort of player. So that was sort of the main reason. I think it turned out to be a good thing. And then a couple of years later, the opportunity come about again. Obviously not as halfback as a fullback, but I think that was probably just the main reason. I just wasn't ready to lead a team around. I was just a bit too quiet and shy at times, and I needed to be around a team for a year or so to get to know everyone before I'd sort of come out of my shell a bit, I think. So that was probably why.
Yeah, so we'll take you to your debut for the Red and Whites, Adam. I think, was it Sheffield, the Challenge Cup? Your first team, not of friendlies, but was that against Sheffield?
I'm not sure. I think the first round game was, I think, Bradford at home.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you play Bradford? It was like 50-30. It was a weird game, wasn't it, or something? Or high scoring, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they scored first, and it wasn't a great start. But that was definitely my first game, and then I think Sheffield might have been the second round.
Yeah, Sheffield, a bit of a stat for you, Joe. He was lining up against a young Elliot Minchella, who was playing at those for Sheffield. But what were them early rounds like, playing in East Hull, sort of wind, rain, cold? What was it like for you coming over? And obviously you'd had a bit of an experience with St Helens, but obviously you'll have been playing when the weather was a bit warmer and what have you? It must have been a bit of an eye-opener for you, them few early rounds.
Yeah, no, I wasn't quite sure what to expect and stuff. But one thing, like I said, that surprised me was the first game to run out and play in front of that home crowd. And that was something I'll never forget, that first game and the roar of the end. But then it was a bit different, but it was good. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't sure what to expect really, but it was a good start.
I think with the early rounds in the championship season there, and it was tough. I mean, it was great that we was picking up some victories, but it probably gave you guys a bit of an easy way to start. And for you working in the span, we was playing against teams like Rochdale, Oldham, and as I'm saying, this is dropped again.
So, right, Joe, keep going. It's right, because,
yeah.
I mean, at the time, we've discussed it on previous Heritage Cast and stuff, I suppose it was difficult for that group of players because they knew that they could win, 99% of the games at a canter. But that in itself must be difficult to have that motivation and that professionalism to keep going. And we saw Rovers did come unstuck a few times, didn't they, where maybe they took teams a bit lightly or they took the eye off the ball. And not every game was a battering.
No, I remember games against like Fair Halifax, Toulouse, really tough games. And I think that season was just about getting up, wasn't it, mate? And when we spoke to George, I mentioned that even if we'd have been in Super League that year, we'd have probably still been playing in the middle eight. So ultimately that running gave us a little bit of leniency for the middle eights to prepare and to bar Mossy Massoy, bar Justin Carney, get Abdul fit because he was instrumental. And probably looking back at it, even the disaster that was 2016, the beauty of the middle eights kind of gave you a bit of a free run if you was in the championship and you was the top end of it. I definitely thought that because even, we wanted to be the league leaders in the championship and we did do that, but I always knew we was going to be the top four. So either way, you was going to be fighting for Super League survival in the middle eights or Super League status. And that middle ground probably didn't affect us that much as looking back at it in the bigger picture, Chris, I think.
No, but I think it was a good time for the club, obviously, to reset. I think we definitely needed that, and in reality, it's not something you want, is it? You know, you don't want a relegation on your CV as a club. You know, some clubs have never come back. Look at Widnes. You know, relegation ain't always a good thing for clubs, and sometimes you can never come back. But thankfully, as a club and as a playing squad, they managed to get us back into Super League, and we haven't looked back since then, have we?
No, how big was it though going up the first time around? Because I think if we wouldn't have done, then
No, we'd have been screwed, mate. I think would have been. I think
would have been like a Widnes. Would have been.
It'd have been a tough run, and I don't think would have. I don't think. Well, you can't predict the future, can you? But obviously, I don't think would have been where we are now if we didn't go at that fair time. I think we've got Adam back.
Yes, for the third, fourth time.
Come on, Quinny.
I'm at my uncle's. It must be his bad Wi-Fi.
It's dodgy Wi-Fi. But no, we were just saying, mate, we thought, I was mentioning the championship season, and that middle eight system kind of gave Rovers the middle ground compared to the bottom four of Super League, because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you finished in the top four of Championship or the bottom four of Super League, it didn't really matter. You were still going to fight out. You was all on a pecking order, the same pecking order. How did you find playing against the likes of Rochdale, Swinton, Oldham? And that's no disrespect to them, but you played NRL, you played at a much higher standard. Sometimes was it hard to keep that up, or did you find as a group you was very professional? I remember you being a really tight-knit group. I remember Ben Kane's YouTube videos, everyone dyeing their hair blonde. I remember it was a bit of a lot of camaraderie in this Rovers team, probably similar to what you've had in 2021, just in a bit of a different season.
Yeah, like you said, we were a really tight-knit group, and I felt we were very professional. But in saying that, at times it still is hard to. It's just human nature to keep that level up. You know, going away on a Sunday afternoon at likes of Rochdale or somewhere like that, and to keep up that level, your best level every week. But what really did help us was every game. I often said that year felt like a home game. Our travel and support was unbelievable, and we had thousands more than the home team, so that always helped get us up. But like you said, I think we still lost a few games in there. I think Halifax maybe and whatnot, but we still knew we had more to give. I think you don't want to lose them games and things like that. But even when that did happen, we still felt that we had more to give, and we were still building and going to try and peak in the middle eights system.
Yeah, me and Joe were just talking about how difficult it is sometimes when you're the clear favourites to win games and how to do that game week in, week out, and to keep that eye on the ball kind of thing. Who were the leaders around the team at that time who did the job of sort of keeping you focused, or was everybody playing their part in that?
Yeah, I think everyone was playing a bit of a part, but obviously we had Lunty was captain. He was always onto it. Nick Scruton had been around, and when he spoke, everyone listened. He was definitely one. Obviously Bobby Blair, he'd been around and he'd been at the club for a while, and an experienced player. So I think we had them three around, and when they spoke, people listened. Like I said, I think most of the boys were onto it most of the time. But if anyone did slip at a point, those sort of older heads were always there to go, hey, hang on, just get them in line. So
I think the signings are like Justin Carney, Mossy as well, mate, really ramped us up in going into the middle eights. You look at the victories against Lee away. I think Lunty scored twice there in the old orange and green kit, and then going to Featherstone, which is probably one of the hardest pitches to play on because you're playing on Mount Everest, running up that hill in the second half. I remember Ryan Shaw or Heffernan having a really good game, but that Widnes game, the promotion, Ryan Shaw's full length there. What was your memories of that day? And when we spoke to George on the previous podcast, I remember the night out around Vicky.Tav with all the fans. It was a really good achievement. We'd done it, we'd been there. But we was just saying as well, how vital do you think and the players think, if we wouldn't have gone up that season, you look at the likes of what Widnes have done now. Lee have struggled to cement a place back. Going up in Super League that first year, at the time, that was the aim, but ultimately it was a tough task, and you guys did it, because if we wouldn't have done, I don't think we would have been in the position we are now. Yeah, no,
definitely. Yes, you say when you look at them other clubs that didn't manage to do it, and what's happened from there. So I think it was massive and hugely important that we got the job done that year and went straight back up, because a lot of effort and money from Neil and that was put in for that season to get straight back up. And thankfully, we did get straight up, and that day it was a great day. I'll never forget that. And I think also, which helped, was I think we still had 2 games to go and we were already up. So we didn't have so much of that added pressure because we got it done early. So I think, if it's coming down to £1 million game or even one game before, anything can sort of happen. But we're fortunate enough to win early enough that we had 2 games to spare. But that day, it was quite a tight game, and I remember having a packed ground. I think we were expected probably to win, or I think the supporters and I thought we would probably win. Didn't obviously knew it was going to be tough, but it was quite close, wasn't it? And then I think we're up by 2 when Shoei got the intercept and went the length, and I remember I was sort of fullback. He got the ball, and as soon as I see him in the clear, I remember just thinking, that's it. He's not getting caught now, and him running straight down the east stand side with the crowd all up and cheering him on, and that was just an unreal moment and time and memory for me at the club. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and obviously it was probably one of your best seasons in the red and white of Hull Kingston Rovers, and the end of the season awards. You had a almost clean sweep, I think, of trophies and stuff, and it was just rewards for a fantastic season, but a bit of a disappointing end for you, I suppose, with the injury.
Yeah, so the next year, I think that was first year of Super League. When we went back up was my best year, and I managed to play a lot of consistent games, and I don't think I missed one at all during the season. And then I think 2 games to go in the middle eights. It was Halifax at home. I remember just chasing back off I think a crossfield kick that they got it and the winger was running, and then I just went to step and just fell over, and I'd heard people talk about how they've done ACLs and how they feel, and I was pretty sure at the time that that's what happened. And that was quite disappointing. Obviously, I felt I'd had a really good year personally, and to finish it like that, it was it was pretty disappointing. And knowing that I was going to miss a fair portion of the next season, but that's rugby, and stuff happens, doesn't it? So I had to just look for the positives and look to rehab and work and to get back as soon as possible.
Just give us a bit of insight, Adam, into what it's like for someone to have. Obviously, you've gone from playing week in, week out to having a horrendous injury to then being on the sidelines, and especially for yourself, who's still quite new to the city, probably still fitting in, getting into a routine and stuff. How tough is it to be on the sidelines, watching your mates in training, watching them playing games and stuff, knowing that you are part of the group, but in a way you're not as well, because you're sort of removed from all that training room banter and all that kind of stuff? Yeah,
it's difficult because even at training, you're in the gym and things, but you're not out there on the field, and you train a lot on your own, and you're not amongst all that. And then once the season starts, it's even worse because you're signed up to play games, and you're sat on the sideline and you can't be a part of it. And I've always found it harder to watch than playing, nerves wise, especially. When you're watching the boys, and it's difficult. But it was something most players go through at times, whether it's a long or short injury. You miss games, and there's something you have to learn to live with and adapt to, and just try and support the boys and be a part of it as much as you can, and give input when you can, and try and help that way.
when we've spoken to a lot of players who were the similar timeline to you as well, Quinny, and we've mentioned Tim Sheens. Obviously, 2019, am I right? You didn't play under him in 2019, did you?
No, my first game
Your
back
first game was Smithy's first game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll go on to that in a moment, but what was your opinions on Tim Sheens? Obviously, at the time, and Chris mentioned it to George, from a fan's perspective, we appreciate what he's done in the game. Thought he was a legend, and looking at him still doing stuff with West Tigers now at 71, whatever he is, so still going. But we saw him in the media quite miserable sometimes, quite playing stuff down. What was it like as a coach? Was he a motivator, a tactician? And was you sad to see him go? But ultimately, when Tony Smith came in, see any big changes? Obviously, you got the game back, the Warrington game, when you scored and instrumental in that victory. How was that changeover? And your first game back scoring under the North Stand at Craven Park must have been a fantastic achievement for all the hard work he did in the rehab. But tell us about Mr. Sheens, Mr. Smith, and getting back into the Rovers setup.
Yeah, it was sad to see Sheensy go. Obviously, he brought me over, and he believed in me, and I felt my rugby did improve under him, and I really enjoyed playing for him. And obviously I didn't get a chance to play for under him that season, obviously being injured. I thought, maybe I could have helped at times, a couple of close games, but that was the decision made. And then Smithy come in, and I never had anything to do with Smithy before, and was unsure, the differences in how he was going to coach to Sheensy. And he come in, and I think it was my first week back. He was there. He said, "You're good to go," and I said, "Yeah, I'm good to go." And like you said, we managed to beat Warrington, which was his old side, obviously, and managed to score at the end, which I think sealed it. And after 9 months out, to come back against one of the top teams, play all right and score that try at the end at home for a new coach as well. Come in his first game, it was, probably couldn't have been scripted any better. So it was, it almost made the 9 months worth it. And it was great to just be back out there, and what happened. It was unreal.
I was just wondering with Tony Smith, and probably, for any coach who comes in, especially sort of partway through his season, did you notice that Tony Smith came in and wanted to change everything straight away? So you've gone from what Tim Sheens was doing, and then Tony Smith's coming and wanted to put his mark, or was it a bit of a smoother transition?
Yeah, I think a bit of a smoother transition. Obviously, he's been around a long time, and coming in and changing things straight away, obviously, I guess, would be hard to adapt to. So it was more of a smoother transition, and slowly, and I think it was a really good transition. Well, for me personally, I had no issues with anything, and it was great, and loved the way he was going about things, and loved playing under him, and being coached by him, and I think I grew a lot as a player, and on the field, and mental side of things, he's big on, and he was great. He's great,
Yeah, he's. I mean, we love him for what he's done in the 2-3 seasons he's been at us, and hopefully long may it continue, mate. So 2019, obviously, great for you to get in, a run at the back end. Going into a 2020 season where we didn't know what was going to happen in the later months and the year, and still talking about it now, even in the present day, unfortunately. What were your memories of 2020? Obviously not the best year for you as well, another serious injury, and we know about all that, but playing behind closed doors, COVID, being over here, away from your home, being isolated. I mean, it was tough for us guys, but at least we was around our families at some extent, and we could still know that the nearism was in our home city. How did you guys, and obviously the other quarter players, find it being quarantined and isolated? Obviously you were still playing, but it got disruptions. Was playing Salford in Warrington on a Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and little stuff like that. It must have been so tough. I know George last week said he found it really tough playing without fans, especially Rovers fans who were such, a big influence on you guys, like you always say. But what was 2020 like for you? It must have been quite tough, buddy.
Yeah, like the playing. Obviously, when we come back, I think I played the first 2 games, but it was just weird. Like it was almost like a training. Do you know what I mean? But it was like against another team, and it was full on, and you could hear anything that was being said in the ground, and I think that just took a little bit of getting used to, and but then obviously I got into 2 games in, and so I didn't play those Tuesdays and things like that, but I think everyone, it was just a bit. I don't think they really got used to it at all. It was just a bit bizarre and strange. And then, the isolating. And then, obviously, before we started back playing, locked down. I don't know how long the season stopped for, but 3 to 4 months or something like that, was it? And maybe more. And just sitting at home and just having so much time on your hands and not knowing what to do with yourself. And you couldn't come in and train together. You do your stuff on your own, but that was with limited gear and things. You might go for a run and do some stuff down the field, but it was just a really weird time. And then to start back playing and no fans and things like that, and then playing on different days and so many games to try and catch up. It was a strange time, and I'm sure everyone in the competition would have felt like that as well. But I don't know if anyone really adapted to it as such, because it was just so abnormal.
Yeah, I think me and Joe spoke about it in the past, and I think we lost probably a bit of interest in rugby league, because it just felt like the games were getting played to get through to the end of the season and just try and have. But when you was watching the games, and it's probably no disrespect to you as players, because you probably felt the same as well, but you just didn't feel like it was, the Super League, rugby league that we know it. It just didn't feel like it was what it's about. And obviously, for me, the big thing about rugby league is watching the games and being with your friends and family and stuff. And when you take that element out of it, you do lose a bit of it. So I was just going to fast forward. So obviously, you're going back to Australia now. Did that experience of COVID and lockdown and all that have a influence on your decision that you've made now?
Not that I know of, maybe without me realising, but I don't think so. It just sort of, am I going into all that reasoning and what, or?
What's that?
No, I was saying that didn't really, I don't think it played a part. And I was just saying, do you want me to go into the reasoning or that after? Or?
Oh, no, we'll do that at the end. We'll do that at the end.
Yeah.
Retiring.
Yeah.
No, we'll finish on that, mate, because we'll, want to speak to you about that and obviously finish, wishing all the best and all the fans well as well. But no, definitely, I think it's a good point that Chris made, and we'll go into your final season, what was obviously at the time we didn't know, but 2021. Big changes. Brad Takarangi, we've mentioned him earlier in the podcast. Albert Vette, Corbin Sims, Ryan Hall coming in. Did you notice the standard changing? Because no disrespect in the Super League seasons, it was great that we cemented our plays, but it was a tough old slog, wasn't it? There was some very dark moments in them early years back in Super League, some heavy defeats. Bottom of the table finishes, obviously, Toronto. If COVID wouldn't have happened, would have been in a relegation scrap again. But in 2021, when did you start to see the changes? Before we speak about, the arrival of Lachlan Coote and that had ultimately mean you leaving the Robins, when did you kind of notice, all right, the standards improving here and Tony Smith's getting a grip of his team, along with Danny Maggs, Dave Hodge, Stanley Jean, because we all mentioned Tony Smith, but I think them 3 guys deserve a lot of credit as well, what they do, especially Dave Hodgson and Maggsy probably working with you a lot in the span and with the wingers and outside backs.
Yeah, it was, I'm not sure when exactly, but when them signings happened, quite personally, I know I thought, I didn't see that coming, and, quite a surprise, but obviously a very pleasant one. And I thought, hang on here, they're starting to mean business now. And then the recruitment process had changed a little bit. And then when they got there, and I guess probably once they were announced and that, and people knew and who was to come, because they didn't come for a little bit, the training, everyone was, preparing and excited. So that helps in your training. Everyone's keen to get out there and prove themselves and train well. And I think that started from the start, and then the boys come over, and it only increased when they got there to training and things. And And yeah, it was exciting times, and to have such, great players that have been on this side of the world to come over there and play with us and that whole KR was, everyone, there was just a buzz about the place, I think.
Yeah, I wonder, did they, obviously these players will come across and obviously you'd been here for a few years. Did they rely on you to maybe help them win, just in the local area, get to know a feel for the club and stuff like that and listen to your experiences of being at Hull Kingston Rovers?
To be honest, when they got there, yeah, but I hadn't actually spoke to any of them before they come. I think Tony obviously sold it well enough, and they come over. And then when they come over, obviously I know what it's like coming and being new to the area, settling in and not knowing where things are, and that's how I tried to help. But in saying that, most of our team are very supportive like that anyway, and everyone goes out of their way to make sure everyone is settled in, knows where things are. If they need a hand doing something, it was the same when I first came, and it was no different to when them boys come over and settled in as well.
I think moving into the season in 2021, the beauty of having a good start, especially in Super League, which we probably hadn't had for a few years, if we're fighting a relegation battle, we can't offer these big name NRL signings to come play for us because they're not going to want to come and play for in the Championship. I know you did that, but some people won't want to do that, especially at certain times in the career. With Rovers having a good start, we got linked with Toby King, Blake Austin, and I thoroughly believed them two was going to happen. When the news broke about, and it was quite a surprise about Lachlan Coo, we didn't really understand where that had come from. We just assumed it'd still be at Saints. When that came about, mate, how did you feel? And, when did you find out that Rovers were probably more likely to go for Lachlan Coo, which would ultimately, because of the quota spots, and being in your position, mean that your time was probably coming to an end? And was that a decision made lightly, or did Tony have any words with you? And it must have been tough, especially seeing Lachlan Coo coming in and these big name signings and everything, especially after being at the club for so long.
Yeah, so Tony rang me and just said, how you going, that? And I was like, yeah, right. He said, I've got some news. And I sort of could tell that obviously it wasn't going to be great. And I knew there was one quota spot left. And he said, I'm going to have to use that quota spot elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, okay, no worries. And I think at the time, Blake Austin was getting mentioned in the media and things like that of maybe coming, and I didn't actually ask Tony who it was. I was just like, oh, that's fair enough, mate. You got to do what's best for the club and whatnot. And so I thought it was him at the time actually, and then I think I come into training and I was getting physio or something or whatever, and got chatting to people, and then I got wind that it was probably going to be Lachlan Coo, and I said, oh well, of course, he's the best fullback in the game in the Super League, and if you got a chance to get him, you take him. So I was sad. Obviously, I would have loved to have stayed. I've been there 5 years and that, but I understand it. And in the game, it's a business, and if you can get a player of his caliber, you take him straight away. So I totally understood it.
Yeah, it's obviously difficult news, isn't it? But is that when you started to think about your future and whether you was going to stay in the game, whether you was going to go back to Australia? Was you starting to put feelers out for maybe clubs over this side of the water? Yeah.
So then I thought, all right, okay, so I'm not here. Definitely not here. What's going to happen? What's next? There was times during the year where I thought, do I want to go home? I wasn't playing well. I wasn't, I felt I wanted to go home. What was the reasoning? What come first? I don't know. And then I started to enjoy my rugby again, and I felt my form was building, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm keen to stay on somewhere here, and trying to put feelers out. And then there was talk, and possibly if someone left and things shaped differently, possibly at Wakey, that didn't come about. And then once that wasn't to come about, sat down with my partner and we just got chatting, and I thought, well, what are we going to do? Can't wait forever. We need to make a decision. Obviously, you have to pack up the house and, book flights and look to whatever's next. It's not just make the decision, and then it was a process would have had to have been done to move home, and because obviously been here 5 years. So we started to think that way, made the decision, and we thought it through. And once I made the decision to say I was going to go home, that was my decision I wasn't going to try and play professionally or semi-professionally anywhere. So that was it, and I was content and happy with what had happened, and yeah. So, and then once I'd made the decision, I think Lee come in, and they offered, but it was just at that point, like I said to my partner, if they had to come in, maybe 6 weeks before or 4 weeks before or something, it might have been a different story, and I might have taken it. But once I'd made my mind up and we'd started planning and that, I said, I can't go back on that now. Like, we've already started getting rid of things in the house and putting things in place for back home. So, and I couldn't like sign for someone then if I was only, not fully committed, I felt. So I didn't want to get halfway through the year or a quarter in and think, I want to move home now. So we said, let's just crack on with going home. And I'm here now. So we made that decision and got on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing for me, for Chris, and for the rest of the Hull KR fans, mate, is, and for yourself, more you than any of us, is the fact we saw what you can do, and we saw some of the great times on the pitch, and when you was on form, the team clicked. But just ultimately, and as much as we know, just not enough games, injuries that, I know especially injuries are awful and they can dampen a career. The back end and your final game for Hull Kingston Rovers, which, luckily enough from ours, we got to see you cross the whitewash one more time, and you deserve that. That photo of you and the Meekin breakthrough and your shoulder pops out, I can feel your pain. I've dislocated the worst pain ever. Just tell us, when did that start before we move on to retirement? What are you going to do post-rugby league? When did that start? Because we didn't know that you was playing with a dislocated shoulder that was popping out all the time. So fair play to you, mate, because I couldn't have done it.
So it actually happened, I think it was my second game in my first ever year. I think we're talking about Sheffield earlier. I dislocated my shoulder then, missed a few weeks, and that was it. And then I ended up coming back, whatever. Nothing ever happened from it then. And then I think 2 years later, after I did my knee, I was 1 week away from coming back to play, and just training on my own, I ended up dislocating my shoulder at training. But I managed to still come back and play the next week, so it was all right. So then it didn't happen again. So obviously they say once you do it, the more times you do it, then it's prone to come out all the time. And then I think it was the end of that season, I possibly could have got it operated on, or maybe the next season. And the next season, because when we come back from COVID, first game against Warrington, actually, I popped it out in that game as well. And I thought, here we go, like, not again. And managed to get it back in play, and then I ended up doing my wrist 2 weeks later or whatever. And I was going to get it done at the end of the season, but it was going to put me out for quite a long part of the pre-season. And obviously haven't been injured a lot. I'd missed a few pre-seasons and that. And when I played my best was I had the full pre-season that before the 2018 season. And I was like, no, I'll try and rehab it and it'll be fine. I don't want to miss training and whatnot. So hindsight, possibly could have got it done. But at the time I was just trying to do what was best. And then that season, my last season, I can't remember when it first happened, but might happen a couple of times in pre-season, and then a few games, and it would be fine, and then all of a sudden it would just pop out of nowhere, like trying to make a tackle or arm getting caught in a weird spot. And then I knew it was getting coming out quite regularly and easily. And I just kept trying to put it off and just like I'll try and get through the season. And then when it happened in that last game, and I was sort of trying after that point on in the game, I was just trying to avoid using my left shoulder if possible. And I sort of knew then that it got to that point where something might have needed to be done. And after the game, the physio, he just said to me, we need to do something about that, don't we? And I knew as soon as the hooter went, I knew that I was probably going to have to make that decision for the better of the team. You know, I couldn't keep going out there and albeit that played on that game, you know, the next game I might not be able to keep playing on and we're a man down at back and in an important position. So I ultimately had to make that decision and I sort of knew that, you know, that when we finished at the end of the game, I remember clapping the fans and I was thinking, you know, that's quite likely my last game for Hull KR, which was quite sad, but yeah, that's just the way rugby goes at times for people there.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's probably as supporters, maybe one of our biggest frustrations is that we just didn't see you out on the pitch as much as we wanted you to do. Because for me personally, you know, you're one of the most skillful players that I've seen put on the red and white Hull Kingston Rovers, and the way that you almost made the game effortless. You know, it was a real joy to watch, and you know, it is a shame that you've had to obviously make the decision to retire. But obviously, that's not the end for you, is it, Adam? What are your plans now that you're back in Australia?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I will say, with the decision to retire and the injuries, that to me that didn't actually play too much of a decision. I felt that, you know, I was only 29 now, I still had plenty of good years, and the shoulder was going to heal and whatnot. So the injuries, I felt I could come back from that, but it was just sort of the other things that kept building up, and now come back to Australia and back home, moving into working with youth and underprivileged youth in the area of my local area from where I grew up. I just had a job interview last week, and then got told this week that that's all go ahead. So I'll be doing that and looking forward to that, and trying to give back something to the community I grew up in, and try and help with them. And I will play a form of rugby, just like a local amateur sort of league, and just have a bit of fun and play with some mates again and things like that. So won't be rugby won't be the main part of my life anymore, and looking forward to what's to come with everyday work and enjoying other things.
Joe, can you imagine lining up at your local park on the pitch and you see Adam lining up at fullback?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I think Inglis is playing as well now, isn't he, in one of them amateur leagues? I think, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, there's so many amateur leagues, isn't there? So I imagine every an old NRL player or Super League player pops up out of the field playing against some good players still.
Yeah. I think he'd be a bit more worried if you've seen Inglis lining up against than me. I'm about up to his knees, but yeah, the competition I'm going to be playing in, there's a lot of ex first graders and Super League players. I think Grant Millington, who's just finished up at Cass, he's going to be in the same competition, because I spoke to him briefly. I was possibly going to play at that team, but there's a lot of, they come, and a lot of teams, they sort them out with jobs and things like that, and it's a bit of a draw card for people with finishing rugby, and some people don't have qualifications and things, so they go, here, we'll come play for us and we'll give you this job, and so you get some good, it's still a decent sort of level, which is good. So the team I'm going to play for, actually, Blake Wallace played for Toronto and Lee. He's going to be coaching, actually. So that was sort of because I know him, and I'd played with him in Australia before. So that was sort of why I was sort of going to go to this team that I'm at. So he said,
does he still have that horrendous haircut?
Say again?
Does he still have that horrendous haircut? Was he the one with the mullet?
Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure now you mentioned it.
It's too hot now. We'll have to shave it off. Be too hot.
Well, every now and then he'll shave it and then he grows it back, and he loves it.
Yeah, but no, we wish you all the best, mate, and everything you do. Great that you've managed to get a job, because obviously we mention all the time footballers, they're on 100 grand a week and they can retire in the sun. But for you guys, you know, unless you're at the top level for a long time, you know, you have to get jobs, and there's absolutely no issues with that. And the job you're going to do sounds absolutely brilliant, mate. 5 seasons at the Robins, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant to speak to you. Have you got any final words to say to the fans, to the coaching staff, to Bonesy, to anyone who influenced your time at Hull KR?
Obviously the coaching staff, the players, I've spoke to all them, you know, before I left, and told them all what I thought and how much it meant to me, and the time, how good they made the time that I was there. The supporters, like I said, it was something I was not used to, and running out there, and week in, week out, the support the team had was unbelievable. Personally, how welcome they all made me feel, not just, you know, at the games and things, but in the city, just walking around, people would go out of their way to say how are you, or, you know, want to if you're in the pub, have a beer with you, and just get to chat, get to know you. And it was something I wasn't too used to before, and you know, for that I'm forever grateful. I'll never forget my time in the city at the club, and it was, you know, a decision that I was, you know, like I said, unsure of moving across the other side, but best decision I've made in my life, just as a life experience in general, not just rugby side of things. And yeah, I'll be forever grateful for it, and I'll definitely be back in the coming years. I've made so many good friends, so I'll pop back over and visit, and look forward to watching a game from the stands and having a pint while watching there.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just a bit easier, and hope your shoulder don't pop out when you're pulling a pants. You can chill out now, can't you?
I'll use me right hand, don't worry.
Yeah, definitely. Another fantastic Heritage cast, Chris. Any final words? It's been great to speak to Adam, and just discuss his time, especially at Hull Kingston Rovers, and all the good words here.
Yeah, it's been great, mate, and it's been really interesting. Like we say, you're always welcome back at Craven Park, so it'd be great to see you in the East Stand. Just really quickly to finish off, I don't know if you saw, did you see that Tony Smith said if he was a few inches taller, he'd still be playing in the NRL now?
Do you know what? I woke up and someone had sent me that, actually, and do you know what? He's probably right. I obviously, yeah, just lacked a little bit of size, and especially at the time coming through, the game wasn't. It's a bit different now. It's a bit more fast-paced and designed a bit more for the littler guys. But yeah, I think he's probably on the money there, and there were some kind words from him. I had a really good relationship with him, and yeah, still keep in touch. And you know, he's a great fella, even away from rugby. Great coach and a great fella away from it. And you know, I hope he leads them to bigger and better things this year, and they go one better in the grand final, or two better, and then win that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hope so, mate. But Adam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. We really appreciate it, and wish you all the best for the future.
No, thank you very much, guys, and all the best. And yeah, cheers.
Thank you. So everyone who listened, guys, we really appreciate it. We're sorry for the internet connection earlier in the show. We do it. It's normally Chris, Adam, and then you've took one over him now, so it must be the Wi-Fi down under there. But Adam Quinlan made 65 appearances for the Robins in 5 seasons, scoring 30 tries. Thanks for speaking to us, mate. All the best to you and your partner, and we hope to speak to you very soon. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you.